Here is the second part of our lessons in ecology, which is real estate ecology. Real estate ecology deals with the application of its concept in the different measures used of the government to protecting the environmental impact of real estate development. The EIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment, where all developments is required to have the ECC. The green development measures, where the designs of all its structures, improvements, were aligned to following the green development measures. The climate change as well, conforming with the location and its environs. We will discuss the ecological and economic aspect of green property on three relevant levels of the inhabitant, building, and community, and the interactions between humans and its settlement. The purpose of this discussion is for you to understand ecological concept and its application in real estate, to know important details for design concepts, to positively influence planners, developers, buyers, and other stakeholders through implementation of these concepts. So this is our topic outline where we have to define the important terms and what or who are the Philippine inhabitants in the early period and its environment, the Philippine human settlements, which includes its population, the ecological concept application in real estate. Real estate ecology and why is ecological concept important to real estate? Because ecological concept adapt to humans' existence. Real estate as a non-living component is important structural component of an ecosystem. Human and real estate are two most important factors in our business. Environmental considerations have been an essential element in the real estate industry, as well as that environmental protection can be good to our economy. Real estate ecology is the study of interactions among real estate elements. It covers the study of these elements, inhabitants, building, and community. It deals with the effects of real estate developments on ecological processes. So there is one important theory in real estate ecology. It's the social theory, the social and cultural patterns that result from relationships between people and resources. Now take a look at this picture where you see a man sitting on an island. Inhabitants is a major component of ecosystem, alters the environment to improve its living condition and make his living comfortable. And take a look at this photo where you see a building structure that has a unique design. The building design concept was developed to answer for certain situation where adaptation becomes a solution or man's making use of its resources to put an improvement on land. If you've noticed, one side one side landed on the land, and because they want to have a more space that would like to be seated on the ground could not be absorbed or could not be included, they have stretched it through the other side that covers or in between the waters. So in that sense, they were able to provide more space even there's a scarce land that is on top of the water. So this may be one solutions that man created to be able to adapt to its available resources. Now take a look at how community being developed. The community built in a place is giving an impact to its environment and the land where it sits foster another environmental concerns. Thus, having to consider what these three important elements in a real estate in the different application of ecological concept. So that is the community. So here we have the local communities where these communities for human being and how they are grouped. In ecology, a community is assemblage of population of different species interacting with one another. The most common usage of community indicates a large group living in close proximity. The difference in species for human beings, unlike fish that has different form and have different names to identify their community, human beings were identified with their settlement of community through the income class. Municipality is an administrative local area, generally composed of a clearly defined territory and commonly referring to a town or village. Is a local community with administrative body, as well as bounded by its geography. But take a look at the other description of a community where it's a neighborhood. Neighborhood is a geographically localized community, often within a larger city or suburb. It is a local community defined by its territorial boundaries. What about planned community? Planned community is one that was designed from scratch and grew up more or less following the plan. So it is a local community that was planned into a design concept. Ecological concept. The conceptualization of ecology and also the theory of evolution originate from life history, natural selection, population, adaptation, inheritance, and developments. That's how it's defined. Inhabitants and its environment in the Philippine early setting. The brief history of IPs or the indigenous peoples. The first wave was Jabaman. The second, Indonesians, type A and B. So the after that, which we have the small group of settlers from the theory of Bayers. Spatial pattern, pre-colonial adaptation of the early inhabitants. So that's how they form into its settlement. So there are three patterns of adaptation. Those who inhabited forested cores are called Negrito, and those where sedentary rice farming along the coast, who live along the coast, are the Malays. And those that combines the two at mountain plateaus and headwaters are the Tinges. So here's the population estimate of the IVs in the Philippines. How large is the IP, indigenous people population? Indigenous cultural communities, indigenous people, are group of people or homogeneous societies identified by self-ascription and ascription by others, who have continuously lived as organized community on communally bounded and defined territory. Take note, defined territory. And who have under claims of ownership since time immemorial occupied, possessed, and utilized such territories, sharing common bonds, become historically differentiated from the majority of Filipinos. So that's how we define indigenous people or indigenous cultural communities. The geographical distribution of IPs. The Philippine IPs inhabit the interiors and mountains of Luzon, Mindanao, Mindoro, Negros, Samar, and the Palawan-Sulu group of islands. They are composed of 110 tribes and has geographical distribution will be shown on the next slide. Please note that the 110 tribes were actually the numbers that was listed through population estimate. So there may be more than this number of tribes, but this was what was recorded. So, in CAR or in the Cordillera Administrative Region, we have this IPs called the Kankanay, Ibaloy, Bontok, Tingyan or Itneg, Ifugao. This is in Kalinga and Apayao. In Region 1, we have the Aita or Agta or Pugot and Bago of Ilocos Norte and Pangasinan. In Region 2, we have Ibanag of Isabela and Cagayan, Ilonggot of Quirino and Nueva Vizcaya, Itawis of Cagayan, Ibatan of Batanes, Aita of Cagayan, Quirino and Isabela. In Region 3, we have the Aita of Zambales and Tarlac, Dumagat and Remontado of Aurora. In Region 4, we have Mangyans. Region 5, Aita of Camarines Norte and Camarines Sur, Aita, Abian, Isarog, and Kabihug of Camarines Norte, Agta and Mayon of Camarines Sur, Itom of Albay, Cimarron of Sorsogon, and Pulon of Masbate and Camarines Sur. Region 6, Ati of Negros Occidental, Iloilo, Antique and Capiz. Damangahat or Manggahat of Negros Occidental, the Corolano and Sulod. In Region 7, we have Magahat of Negros Oriental and Eskaya of Bohol. While in Region 8, there's none. In Region 9, we have Badiao and Subanon in Zamboanga del Sur and Sibugay. In Region 10, we have Banwaon, Matigsalog, Talanding, and Umayamnon of Bukidnon. The Camiguin of Camiguin Island, the Higaunon of Bukidnon in Misamis Oriental, and Maranao of Lanao del Norte. In Region 11, we have Dibabaon and Mansaka of Davao del Norte, Bilaan, Calagan, Langilad, Tibuli, and Talaingod of Davao del Sur, Mangguaangon of Davao, and Matigsalog of Davao del Norte and Davao del Sur. We have in Region 12, Manobo Blit of South Cotabato, Tagacaulo, Tasaday, and Ubo of South Cotabato and Bagobo. In Region 13, we have Higaunon of Agusan del Norte and Agusan del Sur, Tiguahanon of Agusan del Sur, Manobo of Umayamnon of both Agusan provinces. While the last region we have in the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, we have the Lianenin, Maguindanao, the Maranao in Lanao del Sur, Tausug in Sulu, Yakan, Samal and Iranon in Tawi-Tawi, and Kalibugan of Basilan. So this is all that we have IPs identified in these regions. So now let's go to the population estimate. In the absence of explicit report from the NSO office, the delineation of ancestral domain has not been adopted as census tract. The absence as well of regular tracking or time series data on each ethnic group. The population estimate in this preparation was made in last 2013 and contributed of around 10% to 15% population of the country at that time. If our population today is 109,581,078 with the same percentage share to national population, then our IP's estimated population now is 16 million or less. But this is our regional distribution of IP population during that time. It was census. In the CAR, we have 1,252,962. In Region 1, Ilocos, we have 1,039,447. In Region 2, Cagayan Valley, we have 1,014,955. In Region 3, Central Luzon, we have 227,675. In Region 4, Southern Tagalog, 717,122. Region 5, Bicol Region, we have 185,488. Region 6 West Visayas 145,959. In Region 7 Central Visayas 29,150. In Region 8 East Visayas, this is where Cebu, we have 0. So if you notice, where the regions we have the number of IPs. In the most urban area or most urban region, we have in the Visayas 0 population. And by identifying that in the NCR, there's no recorded as well of IPs. So that means these places, the NCR and Region 8 were highly or urban places where the IPs are no longer set or inhabiting the place. Region 9, Western Mindanao, we have 1,137,197. In Region 10, Northern Mindanao, 1,444,503. In Region 11, Southern Mindanao, we have 2,539,767. In Region 12, Central Mindanao, we have 855,760. And in the Caraga, Northeastern Mindanao, we have 874,476. And in the ARMM, we have 313,749, a total of 11,778,190. On the basis of this population per region, you may conclude or make an assessment of where there is more population or highest population is in region Southern Mindanao, where the environment is more preserved, unlike the others where there is no more population. That make a conclusion that the place is already introduced to more developments. Other than that, the 67% of IPs were located in Mindanao, and the 30+% is in Luzon, and the rest of the 6% is from other regions. Now let's go to the human settlements, Philippine inheritance, and developments. Take a look at how settlement was defined. A complex organism composed of many man-made elements performing many functions within a natural environment. This was defined in the UN Stockholm Conference in 1972. So it deals with the organism of man-made, composed of many man-made elements. Then, in the United Nations Environmental Program, it was defined as an ecosystem composed of natural man-made elements which interact in complex ways within their population dynamics, environmental dimensions, and spatial constraints and alternatives. Take a look at another one. In the UN Habitat Conference, a place where man lives in community, both urban and rural, and involves transformation of the natural environment into a man-made environment. If you notice, it always applies for the settlement, but when we deals with the human and its habitat, what is most applicable definition is a place where man lives in community, both urban and rural, and involves transformation of the natural environment into a man-made environment. Okay, here, how we define the settlement, it's an any group of people living in a particular place composed of man-made physical and organizational elements, as well as main purpose is the satisfaction of the needs of people. Any form of habitation with special purpose, necessary physical elements, and in a specific location. This is how we define settlement. Let's go for the purpose of settlement. The purposes of settlement for extraction, processing, consumption, exchange of resources for survival and comfort. Here are the elements of settlement: natural environment, people, man-made structures, organizations, and institutions. If you notice, we mentioned earlier the elements of real estate, where we define Inhabitants, which speaks here for people. Building speaks here for man-made structures. And the community is the organizations and institutions where it does not take to consider the natural environment. But this has been part of how we adapt the ecological concept in the laws used to keep sustainability in the community where human beings are trying to alter or develop, put developments on land. Let's go to the characteristics of settlements. As to shape and pattern, which was resulted from human adaptation and use. That's how uh, it's being transformed. Survival of the fittest, where human ecological processes seen in the acts of man in invading such place. Through or a place or geographical location for settlement, it's through invasion, competition, and succession. What are the types of settlement? Organic and planned. Where in the organic, accretion occurs around nodes or core settlement resulting in agglomeration. So that's what we call organic. And the growth of squatters in the Philippines is an organic settlement. But unlike in the United States, you cannot settle in one place unless it's planned. So in a planned community or in a planned settlement, settlements existing alongside organic town cities established by royal decree or religious leader as center of government or administration. So this was in the colonial settlements and new towns. Evolution of settlements. We have the collectional economy, nomadic economy, settled village economy, town city economy, metropolitan economy, which we have developed until into global economy. Ecological concept application in real estate, where we have one is the green development. Green development environmentally is environmentally responsive development, an application of ecology principles for real estate development. So that is green development. Why green development? Because the financial reward is an important motivator for doing the right thing. So for people to follow green development, this is what was used for them to be motivated to doing the right thing. Green development has an impact to the built environment, on the surrounding natural environment, and larger community. Is also the application of ecological thinking to the business of creating places for people to live and work. Is also a development approach that goes beyond conventional development practice by integrating the following elements, which will be in the next slide. The elements of green development are environmental responsiveness, resource efficiency, community and cultural sensitivity. These elements together through the green development approach provides numerous environmental and economic benefits by capitalizing on the interconnection. So now we will define each of this element. We have first the environmental responsiveness, where this means respecting is key to environmental responsiveness, using that which is already at a location or naturally belongs there. So in this context, the alteration of the environment will be minimized. Environmental responsiveness is applied to land use by carefully setting building to blend in with a natural environment, by reusing already developed land, by restoring degraded land, and by preserving as much as virgin land as possible. It is also applied to infrastructure by capitalizing on natural features for storm water management system, erosion control, and roadway design. Is also applied by capitalizing is also applied in the process of sitting lightly on the land even when modifications to the landscape are made is the essence of environmental responsiveness. Now, let's go to the next element, which is resource efficiency. Resource efficiency are resources that are the physical materials and energy flows we have access to and use, like the natural water, spring water, where we have to use. Resource efficiency is a process of doing more with less, using fewer resources or less scarce resources to accomplish the same goals. Resource efficiency can apply to many aspects of real estate development, including land use, building design, material selection, waste reduction, water conservation, and energy efficiency. So this is the second element. Green development as economic engine for bringing about ecological restoration. One of the key features of successful green development is that it establishes and reinforces connections between people and place, between people and nature, between building and nature. This process of establishing connections can be seen as the application of ecological thinking to real estate. What green development can do benefits to humans. Green development is good for business, tenants, owners, purchasers. And brokers are all becoming more sophisticated and are realizing the financial and social benefits of green product. This is from Gerald Hines. He's the one who conceived the concept of green development. Green development as well as economic engine for bringing about ecological restoration. So this makes an essence and the sense why we have to study ecological concept or learn to understand the principles of ecology. So this is all for real estate ecology. Thank you for your attention.